Guys, this is a live webinar, so everyone, thank you so much for joining and taking the time out for the training. I just want to clear something up. So a few of you have asked why you're on to the phase 2 of the training. So we do run a phase 1. What my ideas was to give you all a really in-depth training look today. So not only this will really incorporate everything for you, so to get the best use for your pens, and Julia will go into more detail about our resources and more of the strategy side of things, which will really help you when implementing your pen, and she'll go into more detail about this today. So just to introduce myself, I'm the lead for the secondary sector. So if you have any questions on secondary schools, free trials, or anything around that, please feel free to contact me, and I'll put my details at the end for you in the webinar. And again, the recording will be available to all of you to view, and you will be getting some free resources from Julia as well at the end. So now what I'm going to do is pass you over to Julia, who's going to go through this training. I'm really looking forward to hearing it. And I'll be on the chat. So if anyone's got any questions, please feel free to type it into the chat box. I hope you all enjoy it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, everybody, let's keep it pacey and we'll get through quite a lot of content as quickly as we can this afternoon. So if I can work out how to forward this. So in this session, I am assuming that you have got a reasonable knowledge of how to use one of these reader pens. If you do not have a reasonable knowledge of how to use the reader pen, you might feel a little bit at sea, because I'm going to be talking about implementation, and I'm going to be talking about who this pen will specifically support and what kind of additional needs they have. I'm going to bring my knowledge as a Senko to this session, because that's what I did before I came to work with scanning pens. I was a Senko. I did some local authority advising. I've worked in PRUs with those reluctant readers, so I've got a really good grasp on how this product can support the particular learners that you are supporting too. If you want to write in the chat box, Julia, didn't understand that, please repeat. Can you do a bit on this? Please keep those comments coming through. If I keep it pacey enough, we'll be able to go back through and address anything that you need sorting out as we go. Okay, I am not going to do that horrible thing and read off slides. I'm just going to use them to support what I'm thinking about. So please go ahead and read off slides as I talk. I know you're perfectly capable of doing all of that multitasking, because you're all fabulous teachers doing that all the time anyway. Okay, so first thing I'm going to say to you is, if you have got reader pens in school, and if you have got these pens in school, which are the orange exam pens, the odds are that you've got them well deployed at the moment. You've got them going out to students. Is that right? Or are they in the cupboard? I'd love to know where they are. Have you actually got them situated with the student who needs to use them? Because this session here is about how we can ensure that your student who needs this text-to-speech reading support can use it effectively. And if you bought a whole bunch of these, because some schools buy class packs of 10, I want you to be able to think, right, I know how to deploy these effectively, and I know how to track the progress that my students are making. Students collect in the morning, great, that's good news. So you've got a system working really well. Okay, I'm going to take you through some ideas which you're welcome to use. And if you think, actually, no, that's not workable for me, because we've only got so many, please put that information into the chat, because I will learn from what you're telling me and I can adjust accordingly when I come back and do some more training as we go along. So the functions of the reader pen essentially are to read. So for text, not for handwriting, it will be a text reader. It decodes. In other words, a student can use the Oxford Primary Dictionary or the Collins Dictionary to find the appropriate word and get that decoded. That will support their learning independence. The pens also transfer text from a printed page to your computer. So in your settings on the reader pen, you can set it up so that it will just directly enable a student to scan and drop words into a file. If you are doing a close activity, that is a very good way of doing it. If you've got a student who's perhaps got dyspraxia or doesn't want to do that amount of writing, they can at least show their knowledge by dragging or cutting and dropping a word into the right part of a pre-made worksheet, all you would do is supply the right words that would need to go in. So the exam reader, Jane, the exam reader hasn't got this function. Okay, the exam reader is the cut down version of the reader pen, and so what you will find is there is very different functionality on here. On this one, the white one, your everyday pen, you've got a lot more facility to support those learners who've got those additional needs. So that includes that dictionary function and the transferring of text onto a computer. It's also got a record function in here, so that if you were having a student in your classroom, they could speak their homework into their pen, or you as a teacher could record a message into that pen to share with the parents if the pen goes home. We like it when the pen goes home, particularly when it comes back to school, obviously, but we like it because we know that it accelerates their learning. So, okay, well, let's just talk a little bit more about that. The record function is that one, the dictaphone element there. You can use it for so many different things. Great if you want to say something positive to that student. Jim, you did a really great job of reading in my class today. I was really proud of you for doing the read aloud, letting the pen read aloud for you. That was a real bit of confidence on your part. Well done. You could record that. Jim's got that in his pocket, and then he can show that to his parents or let them listen back. You can reinforce all of that good positive stuff. So those are the pens, and now I'm going to talk to you about the particular students that are going to make progress using a reader pen, because you might have narrowed it down in your mind to think, right, this is probably dyslexics who would most benefit, but I'm going to say to you there are a wider variety of students that you might want to consider. Now, you've got pupil, catch-up premium, money. Is money coming out of the sky? I hope so, because we've got so much catch up that we need to do. And if you can put a case together to put some support for students in, I think this is a really good way of doing it. Your SEMH, that's social emotional mental health, that's your social emotional learners who have that confidence difficulty, will benefit with a reader pen, because it will just give them that boost to think, yes, I know exactly what I'm doing. I can crack on with my learning. So that's one thing that you might not have thought about, because you've got that rapid feedback that's provided. The confidence that students can have if they allow the reader pen to be their voice. So if you're doing a piece of reading in class and a student knows where the bit of text is, the pen can do the reading for them. It can be a voice for them. Students with sensory or physical needs, so I'm thinking ADHD, which we know is a kind of co-occurring, what we call a comorbidity with dyslexia. So very often, if a student's got dyslexia, they've probably got a whole range of other things that are a challenge. If that student also has ADHD, the ability to just put the headphones on or plug the earphones in all of a sudden is tying that student to their learning. They're not jiggling about, they're not listening to anything else, they're just focused and plugged into the pen. So it can create a really good little feedback loop for that student, where they're in a total state of focus if they are normally just a little bit unfocused. For students with ADHD, if they don't like the proximity of a TA, not that anyone's getting close to anyone at the moment, but rather than having a TA supporting, it does mean that that pen can do the job for that student, and then it gives them their distance that they appreciate when you're supporting them. For students with cognition and learning, I'm thinking particularly about students who struggle to acquire their language skills. The reader pen will model for them. And that case of modelling is so hard to get hold of a SALT, isn't it? A speech and language therapist. They're like hen's teeth. We're doing a bit of research actually with reader pen, where we're trying to find out whether this really promotes students understanding their phonemic awareness with the pens, and just by repeating and having that word repeating, that seems to be quite helpful for those students. So it can support with anyone who's got these processing challenges, that they can go back and recover that word and recover that word. There's only so many times you're going to ask a teaching assistant or a teacher before you stop, because you decide that you're feeling embarrassed and that you don't want to do that. But I think with a pen, it's very helpful for the students who just want to quietly crack on and do that bit of learning and feel that no one's looking at them or judging how much support they're having. I've talked a little bit about speech language communication. The rapid decoding bit that the pen does is amazing. Having taught in classrooms, I think one of the worst things is trying to work out how to pronounce something. So I remember trying to work out how to say Alsatian when I was younger and having to say it in class and making a real mess of it and feeling I'm still embarrassed. I'm nearly 50 and I'm still thinking about it. So that ability to take control of that decoding, I think, is it'll make a big difference for some of those learners whose confidence has been knocked. So here you are, you've got a wide range of learners who can benefit from the pen, and then you've got to work out how to spend your money. So I would suggest that if you look at the side of the slide, you'll see that you've got those sections in the SEN code of practice, which is SEMH, sensory, cognition, communication. And then you're going to think, right, how many challenges have we got that we're trying to support? Have we got COVID learning loss? Am I looking at a reading age gap of more than whatever it might be appropriate for you, 9+ months or whatever it might be, your scale of reading scores? You might be thinking, has this student had IT access while they've been at home or not? And if they haven't, you might want to put in the intervention there. Are they a child in care? If they are, you will be held to account for their pupil premium spending, and you'll be looking for a strategy that will be really effective for them. Perhaps you've got students who are English as additional language learners who haven't practiced using their English while we've been all at home because they've been speaking their home language. Read a Pen is very supportive for those young people too. And then you've got your pupil premium students. So in a nutshell, those are the students that I would be thinking about if I was setting up some kind of intervention. Now, I've put this slide together for people who have got more than 10 pens or more, because you will need a strategy to be able to deploy these pens really effectively. I am imagining you are here because you are the lead teacher in this particular intervention, and so you need a team. You need some people who are really going to come along the journey with you and be part of this adventure. It's useful if you have somebody who can support you with strategy. So those would be the people who will be writing this intervention into the IEP. They'll be training staff members. They'll be telling your staff team, look, we've got these in school. Please make sure students use them. It's not cheating. It's to do those bits of communication. And then it's helpful if you've got a technical and maintenance team. By that, I mean somebody whose responsibility it is to talk to that student and say, let's get the pen set up for you. It does contain a wizard. It will go through and give a basic setup, but there are additional features in the pen that you can use to make sure that student gets the best quality support they can. So, for example, you can slow down the speed at which it reads. And for those students who have got slower speeds of processing, you are giving them the best chance of being able to decode with that pen. Other things that someone in your technical team will be able to do is if your student, and I have done this myself, decides to set this to read Italian and they are not Italian, your tech person will be able to get this back to English, because otherwise this becomes a piece of kit that that student is going to be not able to use, perhaps, if they can't work out how to get back to English. So it's really useful to have someone who has sat and worked out how to use this pen and thought about how to personalize it to that student's need. Do you need the words to be said slower? Do you need a punctuation pause? In other words, when it reads back, do you want it to stop at a full stop or a comma, so that they don't just scan and scan and scan? Do you want them to be able to lift off the pen and it read back that? Or do you want them to be able to lift off the pen, scan another bit, scan another bit, scan another bit, press the button, and then it be read back to you? That's another way that you can set up the pen via append and replace. And all of these little settings can be tweaked to really provide that student with the personalised support that they need. And the most important one is left-handed and right-handed setting, which I'm sure you all know. The pen will scan to the left and will scan to the right. It does go both ways. Sometimes folks don't know that, and it's good to let students, because students who are left-handed naturally want to go the other way, so it's good to let them know that it will work fine if they use it like that. So build yourself a team of experts who will support you with this strategy. The more people that you get involved who know how to use the pens, the better, because your students have then got multiple people to go to if something goes wrong, or if they've got an issue like, I need to take this home, can I please sign it out for tonight? If you've allocated that as somebody's job, then that's jobbed and not your job. Okay, so let's do some knowledge base for all of your teachers, and I would suggest this is something that you could print out and put onto your board at school so everybody knows what this pen does, because we don't want students using this piece of tech and a teacher saying, what are you doing? Is that an MP3 player? We want everybody to know that this is a tool that is supporting reading and learning. So the features here: user-friendly, no Wi-Fi, charges by USB. These are all the things that you would want your staff to know. It provides that digital bridge. In other words, it will take words off a page and pop them onto a computer for you. It'll increase productivity because your students will feel more confident and they're not putting their hand up waiting for someone to do some decoding or reading for them. And in fact, that is going to build capacity into your TA team. Your TAs will be spending less time decoding for students and will have more time for you to do the things you need them to do, or actually move the learning on for the students rather than doing the decoding. So make sure your TAs have seen this and they understand what this pen can do too. Okay, so key messages about the Reader Pen: it's accessibility, it's support, it's not cheating, it supports understanding, and it will increase reading fluency. And at the moment, we're all thinking about assessment, and we're thinking about how we do in-class assessment. So if you have a student who is using a Reader Pen, you can lock it in the functions and put the exam lock on, so your lesson doesn't have to stop. No one needs to go and get an exam pen. While we're in this situation where you're doing in-class assessments, you can just lock this one so that there's no dictionary function, and the student can get on and use this and it will behave like an exam pen. And then when you're done, you can turn off that function and it's back to full functionality of Reader Pen. That might be a consideration for you at the moment, because I know we're all baselining like crazy and getting our in-class assessments done. Okay. Create your team of ambassadors. Here's my friend Karen from Oldham Sixth Form College, and one of the things that she did was she provided a couple of teachers with a lanyard. You'll just see them on the side of the picture there. I think they cost about a tenner from the scanning pen shop. It means that everybody can, who's a demonstrator, who's one of your ambassador, can wear a pen around their neck and demonstrate it. Because what we know is that the more that teachers demonstrate, the more that TAs demonstrate, the more familiar students are with this being a normal way of working, the more likely they are to adopt it as a way of working too. It just becomes normal. And again, this leads to greater student confidence. I've talked a little bit about what you would need to tell your technical team. And again, I'm going to send you this presentation at the end of this, so you've got all of this information. You can share it with those teams of people. But you need someone to learn how to do the basic setups of the pen. One of the biggest things I think I've come across when I've gone into schools and seen the pens being used is that they've not been set up for the individual user. A good thing to do is to pop their name on the back of the pen and make sure that they're set up, and that whoever is your technical support has got a record of the way that pen has been set up too. So you could just print this out and then highlight the bits that you've done specifically for that student. That will help you get this implemented very quickly for your individuals. So there we are. There's my example of how you can catalogue and code your pens and keep them. So when you sign them out, you know that it's going. So if they go in at the beginning of the day and come back, you know that Jimmy's going to get his pen and it's set up for him. The pens have got 2 hours of charging. No, they haven't. They've got 10 hours of charging. And if you plug them in for about 2 hours, they will refresh to about 10 hours. Here's another job for your technical team to do. Make sure that they're always charged up and ready to go. We'll make sure we do send out a recording. That's fine. Yeah, sorry, just spotting questions as we go. Okay, in terms of implementation, I have produced lots of different resources for lots of different settings. So for the primary resources, there is a booklet called the Helping Hands Detective Agency. It runs from ages, I would say 9, 8, 9, all the way up to about 13. If you've got learners in year 9 who require support, I think the story will stick for them, because it's a story about technology and these characters running around having a bit of fun. But each of these are comprehension activities. So you do your bit of reading and then you work out how to use the pen. So let me grab a copy of that. Okay, this is free to download, folks. You'll find it on the website, and it's a self-supporting resource that explains how to use it, what each of the stories do, what each of the stories functions support. So, for example, you might give Lost in the Sand as a reading activity to a student, and then you might ask them to do the activity that will support them to learn how to use the pens, text-to-speech, text reader function, and dictionary definitions, finding words in the Oxford Primary Dictionary. There are 15 activities in this workbook, and each activity gives you another lesson on how to use the pen for your student. So it goes all the way up to how to transfer text to a computer, how to record a message or information. And the lovely thing about this is the student can record what they can now do in this document, and a certificate as well for them. Just print it out. Please use it. I want your learners to be proficient. You can use this with the exam pen, but you wouldn't get the dictionary definitions because it's been designed for the reader pen. But if you took just the selected text reader stories from here, you could use this document. So if you are thinking about repurposing your exam pens, which I think you should, I don't think they should be in the cupboard, I think they should be with your student. The functionality that they are not going to get is that definition, unfortunately, but it's still better to have them independently doing some reading than not, I think, really. So that's primary resources. There's a video available for primary that is from a chap who's a young man talking to his peers about how he uses the pens appropriate for his age group. There are numerous resources. You will know that decoding maths worksheets is such a huge challenge, and so if you've got dyslexia or reading difficulties, just understanding the maths question is difficult. I have put into the resources some numeracy support work there, and also some supporting resources around dyscalculia. If you go onto the web page and you look in secondary under resources, you will see that there's a Let's Go Scanning guide. There is a guide that comprehensively goes through how you can use each function of the pen, a bit like a menu, very easy. There's some guides on, if you are dyslexic, how using the reader pen can support your memory, and other techniques to support your memory. And there is an implementation guide for you where you can track and see how well your students are progressing. What would I expect them to do week 1? What do I need to do week 1? Week 2, week 3 if you took a trial. So it will go through. I just would direct you there. Same with colleges, lots of information available, with some activities that are slightly more appropriate for your older learners. So there is a plethora of resources available for you to just go in and find and download. They are free. The only wall that is there is that it might ask you to put in your email address so that you can download it. What were you going to say, Jim?
I was going to say it's been amazing. Thank you, Julia. So I suppose some of the people here are obviously with budgets. I suppose these resources, there'd be a good example for them to use to give to management as well, some of them, to persuade them to purchase more pens or
Definitely.
purchase
Yeah.
more into the tech. So would these resources really help, wouldn't they, to help kind of give them the evidence they need to go ahead and purchase more pens? Or
Well, I think if you want to purchase more pens, you need to build evidence, right?
yeah,
So what you probably need to do is do some reading test scores for your students. Choose a group of students that you are going to do that with. So however many pens you've got, work out a little case study, give them a baseline test, do a bit of training work with them, make sure they're confident in learning how to use the pen, let them go away and use it in their lessons, all their lessons, consistently using it. If you can let them use it at home, do that. Come back after 6 weeks and then baseline, test them again. If you're doing GL assessment, reading test A, do reading test B and see what the gain has been, because I know there will be gains, and that is immediate evidence for you that this is a strategy that's working. Okay, I can see Luke is saying, I use the costing comparisons of Human Reader to cost a set of pens. Win-win. We had 10 pens approved because it was around 43,000 savings. Thank you. That is an awesome recommendation. Yes, it will.
thank you, Luke.
And yeah, really good. And the important thing is it does build capacity into your TA team, because if your TAs are not decoding or they're not doing the reading and exams, they are probably doing something for you that is far more useful and far more important to you. This is just the example of the Helping Hand Detective Agency, so you can see what that looks like. Nice, clear, easy to read, written in such a way that it should be accessible for your learners. Okay, there's another document that I wanted to tell you about, which is this one here. I call this my strategic SEN resource. I wrote it for you so you don't have to write IEPs. I wrote it for you so you can just do tick sheet and identify what the needs of students are. And so it's really helpful. Again, download it. It's free. And if you have got students that are of concern, you can start to build up a bank of evidence. If you are going to your head to say, I need X amount of money, what you can do is you can do these tick sheets and say, right, I've got 25 children who are all struggling in these areas and I need to provide support for them. This is the evidence here. You could get 3 or 4 different teachers to fill out some of these worksheets. So if you need sort of multiple evidence of many members of staff identifying learning difficulties in their particular area or challenge, level of challenge, that's all grist to the mill, I think is the expression. I know what it's like. I have been there trying to write bids to get money for resources. So the more you can do that. Okay, I'm going to do some questions as I go. So Jane says, any idea how I can get year 10 and 11 students that become reluctant to use in class but want to use in exams? I would say allow them to do some home use to start with, but do give them some training. Start off quietly. You don't need a whole bunch of people involved or a public exhibition. There is nothing worse when you are year 10 or 11 looking different to your peers. Do you know, this is a really long job if we're going to get it done properly. Immediately, the answer is get them to take it home, get them to use it with their homeworks, get them confident with it, give them a quick training session. When they are confident, with it, then say, okay, we need to use it as part of this in-class assessment. It's got to come out for this activity. Otherwise, we're going to struggle to evidence that you've been using this as a normal way of working. And that's the key, making it a normal way of working. How do we break this down? We talk about accessibility features all the time when we get into class. So if every teacher said, hey, everybody, we're going to be doing some reading today, so I need you to wear your glasses, because that's my accessibility need, and without it I don't function brilliantly. So if you've got glasses in your bag, you put them on your nose, please. If you need a coloured reading line, get it out. If you've got a magnifier, get it out. We are an access positive school. Your accessibility needs come first. Everybody's got them. Get out your stuff. If only I could get every teacher to say that at the start of every lesson, that would start to break things down, because everybody would use the tech. I think in schools where kids are using mobile phones and apps, it's starting to break down a little bit. Reader pen looks quite cool. The orange one less so, it has to be said. But the reader pen, yeah, you could mistake that for something fairly cool, gadgety. Yeah, it's really tough, isn't it? I do feel for you. It is so hard to get our kids engaged in using the pen. But I think if they genuinely start to understand that they are making significant progress as a result of using a reader pen, they will use it. And it just comes down to that self-esteem and having those conversations about self-esteem. And perhaps, I don't know, what else could you do? Share conversations with peers, have some paired conversations so that that person has got a supporter. Yeah, there's lots of ways to go around it, and it's tricky. I know, it's tricky. Okay. Pages in here to help you evidence progress. So, excuse me while I just look in the other direction so I can read this. So there is something called the SPLD literacy gathering form that is in here. So that will help you to identify, perhaps if you've got year 7 learners, if you're seeing traits, it'll help you to identify those learning traits and needs that they have. If you are Senko, you might want to start looking at the reading intervention card to go home, or perhaps for parents, even share with parents what they're seeing around learning. Particularly useful for the younger learners. Wouldn't recommend it for further up secondary school, because that just opens up a can of worms. You don't need that. And core deficits and the reading gap over time, that just gives you a chance to tick what you're seeing from term to term or teacher to teacher, so that you can keep track of things. If you're the person with responsibility for that, you might find that quite a useful tool. Okay, if you are responsible for transition support, you might want to talk to your primary school about reader pens, because there are now hundreds and thousands of reader pen units out in primaries, which is great news. Really good news, because we know that if the nuts and bolts of learning have not happened by age 7, then you're going to need support, and you've probably got a struggling learner. So primaries are starting to do better. They are starting to support their students with the accessibility technology, a toolkit approach, including reader pen. And you might want to say, as they transition across, would you like to have a look at this transition support document, particularly if you've got someone coming across to secondary who might be saying, I used a reader pen in primary. It can be quite useful to say, okay, have you got anyone using reader pen? Can you make sure this document comes to us? You will find this slap bang in the middle of my literacy passport, and you're welcome to use it. You're also welcome to use it or adapt it if you want to use it for students going from school to school who might have significant SEN that you need to share. You might want to use it at CIC meetings if you are sharing information with a multi-agency team, or you might want to share it onwards for college. It's wonderful. We now have students saying, I used reader pen at secondary. Now I'm at college, can I please be provided with a reader pen? So we're finding the adoption of this technology is growing, and the more it does, the more we normalise the use of accessibility tools for everybody, which is what we want to do. Okay, I am sort of running through to the last few of my slides here, and then we'll do questions. So I need you to know that we've got some really superb resources that are video for you, and you can find them on YouTube. So have a little look at the video links. There are case studies. If you're not quite sure if things will work in your school, you're welcome to look at those case studies for EAL students, for students with speech and language difficulties. That might be part of your evidencing how and why this product might actually work to support your learners. You will find lots of information around exam access arrangements with the orange pen, and I think Jim has got a show coming up on the Monday that looks at the new JCI, have I got that right, or have I done something dyslexic on it? Joint Council Qualification, JCQ, yes, thank you. I'll get there. We've got some new regulations coming out, so if you would like to join that webinar, that will be very informative. At the moment, we're in I don't know what to call it, it's like the Wild West with the way that we've got assessments going on. I've read the Ofqual document. How you do it seems to be up to you. It's a very weird point in time that we're in at the moment. But if you have got these reader pens in school, please do use that exam lock feature to support students. And if you want to find out more about how to use the exam pen, please come back for that other webinar. We'd be delighted to see you there. There we are, JCQ. It was just a slide away. Okay. Yes, it's the Wild West at the moment for assessments, isn't it? Okay. So this is Sam Garner. She's going to be talking next Tuesday, was it, Jim? Excellent. I would highly recommend Sam. She is a high quality trainer. Where can you get additional support? How can you get funding? Here are some additional ideas. So there's this remote learning fund, and most of it was used to buy laptops. However, you might want to look at the Small Tech Learning Fund. You should be able to purchase pens by going through this remote learning fund, NTP, COVID Learning Catch Up Premium. If you wanted to look in school at fundraising, I've looked at Rocket Fund. I've been trying to see what they're suggesting. It was quite difficult to run a Christmas fair when none of us could get together for Christmas, but they do have regular webinars giving suggestions about how you create a Rocket Fund. So that's good. And I would recommend having a look at that. I know we're always looking for where we're going to get the money from. Okay. Social media. You will pick up lots of announcements on social media. For example, there is a Dyslexia Learning Festival coming up that I've helped to organise. There is part of a really wonderful campaign to get students reading, and you can find that if you have a look at Succeed with Dyslexia and follow some of the links. And again, lots of free resources. The free resources that are available are based this year around this sort of toolkit of supports that I've talked about. And so if you haven't got a toolkit in your classroom or classrooms that support reading, I think that's the crux of the campaign really. Is I'm encouraging, and there's lots of encouragement to make sure that students have got the tools that they need so that they can feel confident to use them anywhere they are. So my last slide is just I guess a bit of a shout out about the Dyslexia Learning Festival that's coming up. It's free. It's on Monday the 29th of March. Yeah, just show up, just come along, you can watch it. There is lots of support for literacy, dyslexia, building learning into schools, building love of learning into schools, and there are some great speakers. So I guess that's my plug for the Dyslexia Learning Festival that I'd really like you to come along for. Okay, Jim, let's do some questions. Otherwise I shall have to gaze into my screen and see if I can pick them up myself. Where are you, Jim? It's having a cup of tea. You are there, are you? You're muted, my lovely.
I kept muting my own mic, but not muting on the click meeting then. Yeah, I've put in the link for the webinar that you mentioned, and with Sam Garner around access arrangements. So loads of people are registered to this already, guys, well worth attending. So the link's just at the bottom, and it's free to attend as well. I think you've mostly answered all of the questions, Julia. But yeah, if anyone's got any questions, please feel free to type them into the box. Julia, thank you so much for the webinar. Really fantastic.
You're welcome. I was just looking at Claire's question there about PIN code. It was quite early along. So on here, it says exam lock, and you just use the dial to put some numbers in. So I'd usually put in 99999, and then it says locked, and then you just hand it to the student, and then they give it back to you, and you just go 99999, and then it's back unlocked again. So that's how you put that exam lock in. It takes 15 seconds to do it. As long as you haven't got enormous thumbs, you'll be fine. I'll just see if there's any other questions or anything else I can clarify. Do you know what? Have we got time to do a quick survey? I'd love to know if you chaps have found this a valuable session, or
yeah, we forgot to do it.
yeah, or if you feel that I need to modify what information I'm sharing, or if you want to ask us anything else but you don't want to type it into the box, you could just pop it into that survey. So I am going to launch that now. Q&A, exit to action. Oh, I'm just so myopic at the moment. Surveys, right, let's try this. Can I launch it? Okay, it looks like I've launched that. What are you seeing, Jim? Can you see the survey on your screen?
I can see it, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so if you'd like to go ahead and just pop any responses that you've got into the survey while you're doing that, I'm happy to answer any questions. If you have then completed the survey and you want to go, thank you ever so much for your time this afternoon. We've really appreciated you coming along and listening to what we have to say. If you feel that you need more support with learning the basic functions of the pen, let us know and we can get in touch with you and we can put in some more support for you. We will happily train you. Always, we will happily train you. Okay. And what else do we need to say, Jim? Anything else? You've done your plug for your exams webinar.
Absolutely.
That's important. I've done my plug for the Dyslexia Learning Festival. That's important. We'll stick around for a little while, guys, just in case you put anything else into the chat, and we'll wait for you to do the survey. And thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, and guys, we'll be sending out all of the resources that Julie has spoken about today. So if you need the link, I have posted it here, but we'll be sending out all of them for you as well. So you'll have them all available to hand to have a look at. And the recording will be available to people who had to rush off or couldn't attend today. So recording will be available to all of you. The resources, everything that Julie has explained will be there for you. So we'll have all that available. And do definitely look at the implementation guide as well, guys, to look at all of the features that Julia explained, so you know exactly how to access all of them features as well.
I'm just looking at how many pens are stuck in cupboards.
Some people asking for more further training as well, Julia, with you.
Yeah, we're happy to do. What sort of further training would you like? Would you like me to tell you about how to support individual learners so I can get right into specific SEN support if you would like? Why not tell me in the chat box and I can model some training for you. We've got some lovely multi-sensory sessions between myself and Susie Nyman that are available on our YouTube page, where we talk about, well, Susie does all the talking and she's amazing. If you've not come across Susie Nyman, she's a multi-sensory guru, and we've talked about how we can introduce the use of scanning pens into the classroom to support those learners who appreciate those additional tactile, multi-sensory, combined learning pedagogies. So that we can do if you would like to know about those kind of things, or you can have a look on the YouTube channel, or if you want me to send you a link to something specifically, yep. I might have already done that training and I can just send you the recording.
Yeah, we have a few questions, Julia, for you.
Okay, yes, please.
So Katie's put support individual learners, in particular dyslexic students.
Yeah, love to do that. That can be training 3 for you. Be happy to.
And Lucas put NWOW, building evidence, any contract agreements for students and parents, etc.
Ah, yeah, we have got some stuff that we created in the United States, actually. and it's something I've been thinking about creating for the UK. That business of contract, I think, is really helpful. So yes, certainly I can look into that. Okay. Agreements are good. Yeah, they are good. I absolutely agree with you. You've got to get the parents on board. And very often our learners who are dyslexic have parents who are dyslexic as well. That's why it's useful to record the information on the pen and send it home so they can just listen to the recording rather than take the typed information from somebody's hand. But yeah, homeschool agreements really important. Establish a contract.
There's a letter in there, Julia, in the
Yeah,
implementation.
I've done it.
We've done a letter, guys, before you go off. Actually,
I have in the literacy, and I've done an email.
there you go. Here we are, guys. Here we go.
So in the literacy passport, I think that in the section.
This will all be sent to you guys as well. All of these resources, so you can access everyone that Julia's talking about.
Yeah, it's page 20, 25 and 26 of implement, assess, plan, do review. In this book gives you example of email home and example of letter you can send home to. If it's not there, it's thereabouts, and just gives you some wording so you haven't got to create that and write it. It's all there for you. But as for something specific, I think we could probably do with creating something specific that people can download, Jim. It's on my list of things to create.
No problem. And this is PDF, guys, completely free, so you can access that.
Yeah, absolutely. We want you to get the best out
of
it.
Luke will what we'll do is Julia will split all the resources out for everybody, and give them so directly, because I've sent them the link, Julia, but it's we just want to do it so they can click in and grab it. Have we got a PDF copy of all of them, have we?
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll get that sorted, guys. No problem. We'll send it out with the recording for you.
Yeah, I'll send out the helping hands. I'll send out the literacy passport and the slides from this as well. I expect you'd like as well, because there's some things you can use as posters or training resources for your staff or your technical support teams, things that you would like them to get to grips with.
Brilliant.
Yeah, we'll make sure that's sorted, Luke. Not a problem.
All right.
Hey, you're welcome. That's okay, Katie. I hope it's been a helpful session for you all. I feel like I've covered a lot very, very quickly. So I hope that it was at a pace that was manageable.
Yes. Brilliant, guys. Thank you ever so much. We'll end it there, shall we, Julia?
Thanks, everyone. Cheers. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And we'll be in touch with your training materials and the recordings.
I'm going to end that voting on the survey now, Jim. Hopefully everyone's done. Hey, you're welcome, everybody.
Thank you.